Okay, back at it with my main man Stuckey, who is red hot. Uh, Dominated the National Football League. I'd be lying if on Saturday night I didn't walk into the DraftKings Sportsbook Casino and wager on uh the Oregon State Beavers, and that was a tough one. But
Painful.
that's why we gamble. I also went against your advice, and shorted the Brownies and the UCLA rookie quarterback, and I was treated to a Kenny Pickett special, so deserved that one. But the Bears, I mean, that was the lock of the day. The Rams, you had to sweat that one out a little bit, but they found a way. And now we are headed into Thanksgiving week. Stuckey, what's up?
What's going on? Yeah, the Bears, in typical Bears fashion, catching 9. They're up 12 with 3 to go. You think you're safe, right? I had to sweat an offensive lineman kicking the ball out of the back of the end zone. If he doesn't do that, Hutchinson jumps on that ball, and the Lions win by 10 after scoring 17 points in 3 minutes. But yeah, they were this close. I'm sending a Christmas card to Darnell Wright, that offensive lineman who accidentally kicked the ball after Fields got sacked. I've never sent a Christmas card to anyone before, but he's going to be my first. So that was a sweat. The Rams were a sweat. Everything was a sweat last week, but turned out sometimes, you end up on the right side of those. I had a big bet on Oregon State too. Painful. They had like a 75% post-game win expectancy. Didn't get 3 4th downs, turned it over twice, gave up a safety on a missed snap in the weather. They completely held that passing offense in check in the weather, and the offenses were ugly in the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't turn it over couple times. You can't
No.
miss 3 4th downs. You can't give up a safety on a muff punt snap. So yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So that was painful, and a 2-point loss, and then couldn't get a drive late. But it was a good Sunday. But we're on to week 12.
Yeah, when I sat down and ordered around, and I looked up and it was pouring rain, I was like, God, this gotta look pretty good for Oregon State, right? Playing a passing offense, you run the ball, physical defense. I do think, not to look too far ahead, but, Oregon's a huge favorite against Oregon State in the Civil War. Washington's a big favorite against Washington State in the Apple Cup. Now, things get weird in these, rivalry games. Auburn, Alabama have been huge favorites, and Auburn's played them close. But assuming they both win, do you look at Washington because their defense and their team had just been a little soft? They showed a little more grittiness in that game. I mean, that's a gritty, tough environment. Do you give them – because I feel like everyone's like, oh, fuck, they got no chance to beat Oregon in Vegas in 2 weeks. I have a hard time just writing them off because they do. I mean, it feels like they haven't lost a game in like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way the weather helped them too. I mean, the only thing anyone did on either offense all day was Penix hitting Odunze. It was amazing, just throwing it up to him. He was 1 of 11 throwing to anybody else. But Washington was just able to load the box. So they brought everyone down, and they just said, you're not going to be able to throw in this weather, and Oregon State really didn't. And then Washington's corners Muhammad played really, really well, the Oklahoma State transfer. So yeah, I gave him a little boost. They definitely played better than I expected. And when you have Penix in that passing offense, the thing is he's a rhythm. He's a very rhythmic passer, and when he's on, he gets going. But then he can go off the rails. I think he had like 11 straight incompletions against Oregon State, who's not a great pass defense. So yeah, if he gets on and gets hot, they can certainly stick with Oregon. I think what we'll see if both games go according to plan, you'll probably both. I mean, I assume both will win this weekend. They'll probably one or both will be close, really close somehow. As you alluded to. But I would guess that Oregon will probably end up being like a 6-7 point favorite, depending on how games go this weekend. But you can't write off that offense for sure. And I was impressed by the day.
Hey, before we get into the NFL, obviously the big game on Saturday is Michigan, Ohio State. And listen, I've watched J.J. McCarthy the last couple of weeks. Now, I understand the Penn State game. Why even mess around? I thought in the Maryland game, he had some like Jimmy Garoppolo moments for some of those Niner teams where you're like, do not screw this up. which, listen, I'm not some rivals.com guru, but everyone hyped this guy up. Harbaugh went all in with him. And then just listening, because I'm not just going to watch Michigan fucking beat Rutgers 60-0. And I don't even know what those passes mean, but you watch them as these games got a little tighter. Let's face it, they don't have the signs anymore. And he's just, I don't want to say he's looked pedestrian, like he's better than the Penn State guy, but he is no longer this, he's getting drafted really high. I mean, I don't see it in the guy. So I would have loved Michigan, and maybe I was just kind of riding the hype. How do you not like Ohio State plus 3.5 with everything going on with Michigan, given their quarterback is just got to be a major question mark right now?
Yeah, it's a really fascinating game because I also don't trust. You're right. I don't trust McCarthy, and I don't. The other thing going on here is that without Harbaugh, they've gone into like this super Harbaugh mode where they just want to run the ball like a trillion times. Like, but part of that also is their tackle situation is a mess. Like they can't block anybody on the outside. It was actually a smart decision against Penn State because they tried to drop McCarthy back, and Penn State is one of the best edge rushers in the country. And the first 3 drives, he was just getting hit right away. They have, they lost. We talked about this the other week. They left tackle to the Dolphins. His replacement from Arizona State, it's not been good. He's hurt. You got backups in there now, so their tackle situation isn't great. Ohio State obviously has a great edge rush, but Ohio State's offensive line has had some issues too, and I don't trust their quarterback. I mean, Kyle McCord, just if you watch him, take away when he just looks at Marvin Harrison as one of the best receivers in college we've seen in a very long time. He'll just look at him, and third down, he is just, I'm going to throw at you. And they really haven't played anybody. So you got to get away with that. So this is going to come down to, who is number one. Can Michigan just take away Harrison? You have to do that. You have to have a safety over time. You can't let him just beat you alone. Will McCord end up making a mistake just trying to stare him down, which could happen. But I just don't think that either passing offense is going to have much success with some of the offensive line issues from what I've seen from McCarthy, what I've seen from McCord. It's going to come down to this is going to feel like an old school Big Ten game. Who can just get the 3-yard push up front consistently and then finish a few drives off with touchdowns? I think this profiles as an under. I think these games have been higher scoring of late. I just think Michigan will be super conservative again. I think Ohio State wants to rely on its defense. They don't really trust McCord. So, yeah, but it's that difficult game to handicap because we've seen neither team has played a really hard schedule. So you have all these like data points that are meaningless against just cupcake states. And then you have the whole sign stealing. And then you have everything going on with Michigan and Harbaugh not going to be on that. So it's definitely probably the most uncertainty I can ever remember heading into the game in a very long time. But it'll definitely be an intriguing watch, and I'm sure it'll break some ratings records even without Harbaugh on the sidelines.
It's football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivery with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Can Uber Eats deliver foam fingers? No. But chicken fingers? Yes. Touchdown dances? No. Buttermilk ranches? Yes. Field goals? No. Grilling coals? Yes. Running backs? No. Ribs? Yes. Blitzes? No. Beers? Yes. Defense? No. Deodorant? Yes. Game-clinching turnovers? No. But pastry turnovers? You know the kind with delicious apple filling? Oh yeah, because that's groceries. And get those delivered with Uber Eats too, along with food from your favorite restaurants and other essentials. And the best part? You can get it all without missing a second of action on your TV. There you have it. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details. Yeah, the Steelers had 9 lives. They had been outgained in all 9 games. Well, they didn't have a 10th life because they lost. And I remember when Burrow got hurt. What was that, last Monday night? Whenever Burrow got hurt.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Okay, I got my primetime games were thrown off. Oh, yeah, it was just not that long ago that I looked at their schedule, and it's like, the Steelers haven't even played them yet. So I was like, the Steelers get multiple games. And listen, this is not college football where a guy gets injured, the next 5-star comes up. in the NFL, once you have a 40, 45, $50 million quarterback, you tend to have a random backup quarterback. Now, I watch, and I'm from the Sacramento area. I've been following this guy's career. He played at Folsom High School, which is like a power. Remember De La Salle back in the day had never lost in the Bay Area. They kind of became the new De La Salle, and he went on to play for Chris Peterson. And listen, he was successful because the program was, but not in a million years did I ever watch him and think NFL quarterback. And he's been out of college a little while. So this guy, Jake Browning, maybe I'm biased. I just don't take him that seriously as a player. But I'll be honest, you roll out Kenny Pickett, it's just your games are going to be tight and weird shit can happen. Like you're just not going to score many points. So I'd have a hard time placing a wager on Jake Browning. I know where you're going to go on this, but if you lose to Jake Browning, I think today, obviously firing Matt Canada, all the stats are out. First time they, fired a coach in season, assistant coach, any coach, since the early 40s. You have to wonder, like, could they, Tomlin's been there a long time. They haven't won a playoff game in forever. This quarterback thing's not really working out. I don't, it's just, you would start asking some questions. Like, would there be a possibility? Because you can't lose to Jake Browning. It's one thing to lose to the Browns. Their defense is fucking unreal. Myles Garrett is unstoppable. But Jake Browning and this Bengal team, I think would be a little different story.
Yeah. It's interesting because the Steelers, Tomlin's, he's never had a losing record. So you never can even, you don't have Ben Roethlisberger anymore, but you're never going to get like a 2-win season where you can get.
But he's not going to have a losing. He's going to end up, he's already 6-4. So what's he going to end up around 9-8?
And if you look at the AFC playoffs picture, like the team that they had to worry about the most was the Bengals. Like, who else is like they have a really easy path. They even played the Patriots in a couple weeks. Who knows who's going to be quarterbacks for them? They played the Bengals twice, but I played the Bengals +1 here. I agree. I don't think Browning is any good, but you see it all the time with these backup quarterbacks in their first game. That's it. Their first game. They've been really successful. I think 67% against the spread over the past 5 years. Their first game, there's two things that happen. One, you sort of see this in the NBA too, like star player is out their first game after an injury, everyone else steps up, right? So you have an extended break here after playing on Thursday night, so you have a little extra time to prepare and rest. Chase should be 100% healthy, but everyone else steps up. It's like, okay, we have the backup. They're 5-5. They know that this is it. Like if they want to make a playoff run at home, they need to win this game. But they'll have a game plan, probably a pretty easy game plan for Browning, a lot of one-read throws, and there's not a lot of film on what they want to do with him. And, once that's out and it's like, all right, this is the easy stuff that they want to do with him, the Bengals are done. But I think for one game, Browning can do enough. And I'm not asking them to do much because you got to score like 13 points here and you'll win against this Steelers offense. That is, it's abysmal. I also don't know how much they just fired Matt Canada. I don't know how much you can change in 4 days, right? Like, what
not
change
much.
The whole playbook. So they don't throw it over the middle of the field. If you look at the passing chart of Kenny Pickett every week, you could drive a super yacht through his passing chart. He just throws it at the sidelines. That is it. So it is insane. So like the offense is completely broken. I think the Bengals defense will step up here. I think, everyone else on the offense, I'm sure Chase will have like a couple big catches, will step up. And remember, this Steelers defense, Will Levis look good against them. Jordan Love went up and down the field. The secondary has some issues. So I think Browning can make some throws. And I think the Bengals, and like, this is their hype spot, right? First game without Burrow, everyone else has got to step up. I think they win this game in ugly fashion. Steelers have been outgained in 10 straight games. The only team with a winning record that's been done that. They're due for even some more negative regression. But once that happens, Bengals are done. I probably won't be betting them much the rest of the year.
I saw a headline this morning that Carr still hasn't cleared the concussion protocol from getting just throttled a couple weeks ago. So obviously he's a major question mark as we record this on Tuesday. I mean, Jameis, who's just, Derek doesn't do much anymore, kind of dinks and dunks, but at least you know what you're getting. I mean, at any moment, Jameis can just do something pretty outrageously stupid, though he's enjoyable to watch. The Falcons rename Ritter back as their starting quarterback. This is just listen. I watching the Bucs against the Niners. If Baker just wouldn't have had that stretch after they went 3-1 of playing really shitty, like they actually have a lot of talent. Their talent's a little older, but this division's wide open. I guess I maybe just because I picked them to start the season, I would still pick the Saints, but fuck Dennis Allen, Derek Carr. But I don't take Arthur Smith that seriously. Now, maybe it's just his quarterback situation, but all the skill guys, obviously Tampa's in shambles. Maybe just a 7-9 or 7-10 team ends up winning this division.
That's what it looks like. This division, there should be some clause in the NFL where you can't do this, but yeah, if you don't have a team that finishes with a certain record, you lose your playoff spot.
I completely agree that you are not. You cannot, if you win your division with a record under 500, and there are obviously other teams above you, 1 through 7 now, you should not be a playoff team. I'd have who would argue that like that's not fair?
And you get to host a playoff game too.
What's the Ron Rivera thing? He's done it twice.
Yep. Yeah. I bet the Falcons here +1. There is still some quarterback uncertainty. If you have Carr, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. It's going to be Dink and Duncan, which is not how you want to attack this Falcons defense, which should get their slot cornerback, should get Onyemata back. I'll say a random name. We were just talking about Chad Hall. I'm going to hear a random name here that could be important. Parker Hesse is a tight end who I think is going to return. He's like their 6th offensive lineman. He's going to return from injury for the first time. That's when their running game really gets going. They use him a lot as a run blocker, a really random name to throw out there. But the Falcons are a lot healthier than the Saints, who I don't think Michael Thomas is going to play. We don't know who the quarterback is. Marshawn Lattimore is probably out. They have a couple other injuries, and Lattimore is big. Like just everything that they want to do on defense, he can take away your number one. So, if you look at the Saints, I just haven't been impressed with what the Saints team has done.
They haven't been impressive at all. They've been terrible.
They beat the Bears, Tyson Bagent. They had 5 turnovers. They had to hold on to win that game. They beat another backup when they played the Colts. They beat the Patriots. I mean, we don't know what that looks like now. They beat the Panthers by 3, and they beat the Titans by 1 when the Titans had a defensive touchdown call back. And I mean, all those teams are 1 or 2 win teams. Falcons have lost a lot of close games, played a little tougher schedule. I'll take the 1 at home. If it's Winston, I love fading Winston as a favorite, even if it's a short favorite on the road in division game, because he can give away the game. I like betting him as an underdog. If it's Carr, there's just no juice with this offense to attack the Falcons secondary, and the Falcons run D's been really good. So yeah, I'd make the Falcons here like a 1.5 point favorite. So I took the 1.
Maybe just the philosophy is if Atlanta, New Orleans, or Tampa, any matchup, just hammer the underdog in those games. Because what the hell's the difference in the 3 of them?
Pretty much.
Just an enormous game, definitely on paper. The Eagles beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I thought Jalen looked like shit, and then all of a sudden he runs in the touchdown. They get the Kelsey fumble. They hit the Swift screen. He throws a bomb. They score. They take the lead, and obviously they win with 700 drops from the Chiefs. But they clearly don't look. Now, you get this is not college football. You get credit for winning, right? There's no style points. But last year, they looked different, right? They just looked much more complete than they have looked this year. And even Jalen, to me, as a pocket passer, just has, and I understand yesterday was rainy, it was harder, but it's just not looked as good. Like, I mean, last year he was an MVP guy, and this year you watch him, he's not an MVP caliber player. The Bills fire their offensive coordinator, get a little life. Now, granted, they were playing the fucking Jets, and it was kind of a double whammy. One, they're just way better than the Jets, and they had easy motivation because the Jets somehow beat them on Monday Night Football to open up the season, and there was some desperation. This is an interesting game, man. Philly's weird. I mean, it's hard to discount them, but they've been winning these tight games. So you get 3.5 with Josh Allen, who, I mean, you're more deeper in this than me. I've seen a lot of people say everyone's shitting on Josh Allen, and according to like basically every metric, he's easily been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
Yeah, he's been the best. They've been a little unlucky. If you go by luck rankings, we do these luck rankings, which look at things that are like fluky, like turnovers, what happens in the red zone, fumbles. The Eagles have been the luckiest team in the NFL. They have 2.6 more wins than they should. And the Bills have been the unluckiest. They have 2 fewer wins than they should. So really, this is like an 8-3 Bills team taking on a 7-4 or 8-3 Eagles team. And you wouldn't be getting the hook if that was the case. The Eagles have been extremely lucky. Look, they beat the Commanders in overtime because Paddleboat Ron doesn't go for 2 at home. They beat the Commanders again, a back and forth game. They got outgained in that game by 150 yards. You could go back to this Cowboys game. They got dominated in that game. I mean, they were outgained by more than 220 yards in that game. Dallas went up and down the field. You just couldn't do it. It just kept turning it over in the red zone, stepping out of bounds, turning it over at the 1. Just very fluky stuff. Same thing with the Chiefs. Yeah, they got out. They had 230 yards against Kansas City. 230 total yards. That was it. That was less than the Steelers had more yards than that. You had a Kelsey fumble in the red zone. You had 7 drops. You had Mahomes throwing it up to them. You had another Hurts fumble where it bounced right up to him. Go back to that Dallas game. Philly had 3 fumbles in that game. Every single one bounced right back to them. They've been getting extremely lucky. This is a team that just has go back to all their wins. It's not been an impressive team this year. Something is just a little off. They beat the Patriots by 5. They beat the Vikings by 3 at home. They get that touchback at the end of the first half. So they've just gotten every single break in all these games. Credit to them for finding a way to win, but the defense has major holes. They don't have a slot. Their linebackers are a mess. They can't defend the pass. They can't defend over the middle of the field. And the Bills are an offense that once it gets really going, then they are a juggernaut for like 3 and 4 weeks. Sometimes it'll just be a little off. The timing's in there. But I know it was the Jets. Who cares what the defense did? But that Jets defense had shut down every single top quarterback they faced this year. And Allen ripped them apart. So I think that's a good sign for this offense this week against a vulnerable Philly defense that has just benefited from a lot of fluky stuff this year. And the other side of the ball, even the Eagles offense is still just a little bit off. Hurts is a little bit off. He's not fully healthy. You can tell when he runs. That's when the Eagles are the most dangerous, when he can run it with reckless abandon and doesn't have to worry about his knee. This is also the Bills season. Bills need to win this game. And the Eagles are coming off a short week after, getting revenge over the team that they lost to in the Super Bowl. So just from a situation, and they have the Cowboys and 49ers on deck. So they're sitting pretty while you have a desperate Bills team who's been unlucky coming in. Give me the 3.5 all day. This is my favorite bet of the weekend.
When the Ravens beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, didn't that year they fired their offensive coordinator with like 3 or 4 games to go? Was it Jim Caldwell?
Yeah, they fired
I forget the guy's name, but they made Jim Caldwell the offensive coordinator.
Cam Cameron. They fired.
And then Caldwell took over, right?
Yep. Fired him in December.
Yeah, little different scenario than the Bills, but is it crazy to think the way you just laid out that this team maybe just kind of wakes everybody up? Now their defense, obviously a lot of injuries, but offensively, I mean, if they were, like you said, to get rolling, have we all been too quick to just write them off?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, they were getting really unlucky too. They had some close losses, tough schedule. And yeah, I mean, the way that Allen is playing with this offense, they can outscore anyone on any given day. When that offense is clicking and when Allen is hot, they can run with anybody. So yeah, I think now their schedule, they play at Philly, then at Kansas City.
Hard.
So yeah, they could if they lose both, which they could, they're done.
Be done.
You're not going to the playoffs, but yeah, that's why this game is so important to them. Eagles might be a little hungover, short week after getting their revenge. I think you're going to get the hungry, more desperate team that's been unlucky against a team that's been really lucky. I mean, think about it. The Eagles are 9-1. They're plus 60 in net scoring margin. I mean, it's one of the worst 9-1 teams in NFL history. The Ravens are plus 147. The Cowboys are plus 147. The 49ers are over plus 100. The Eagles have squeaked out these games, and it hasn't been the toughest schedule. And they've gotten so lucky in the red zone with fumble recoveries that those things don't last. So yeah, I like the Bills here.
It'll be interesting because last night was a very physical game. Like you said, short week. The 49ers are playing Seattle on the road, and then they get that mini bye. And that game to them is going to mean a lot, right? I mean, it ruined their chances last year with Purdy, so they're going to approach that thing Super Bowl level. And then, the Eagles have, you said the Cowboys on deck after that, who, kind of benefit from this they kind of do that little mini Thanksgiving thing, right? They usually play on Thanksgiving and then they play the following Thursday. So I'm sure they'll be coming off a little mini bye. If memory serves me correct, that's what they usually do. So this is a very, very fascinating stretch of football for all the top, right, 5-6 teams: the Eagles, the Niners, the Chiefs, the Bills, and now the Bengals are done. So the Ravens, who are battling the injury bug again. It's going to be interesting how this shapes out. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to just go, this team is winning the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden the Lions just keep rattling off wins. No one's really talking about them. But I don't view them as good enough. But we've been talking about them for a while. They're going to win this week. I'd be stunned if they don't. And then you're going to look up, and all of a sudden they're going to be 14-3.
Yep, and we talked about that many times. Goff, I've seen it a trillion times. This guy cannot play in conditions. So that 1 seed for Detroit is
make or
more
break.
important than anybody else, than any other team. But yeah, the 1 seed race is going to be super fascinating. Obviously, a huge win for the Eagles.
It was massive. It was massive,
especially with the schedule they have coming up. Also for the division as well. But the AFC. I mean, the AFC with the Ravens now have a bye if the season ends today, but they have 3 losses. Chiefs, Jags, Dolphins, Browns have 3 losses. Like, the 1 seed race in the AFC is going to go right down to the wire. And now, today's NFL with this expanded playoff, 1 team gets the 1 seed. That it is so big. So yeah, both 1 seed races.
Would you say Cleveland would Cleveland be a sleeper 1 seed, or is their offense would you be hard pressed to see that? Because to me, starting the rookie quarterback, that I don't care how good your defense is, that feels hard in this modern day football.
Yeah, it's they'll probably get to so they're 7-3. They have 7 games left. They'll probably win 3 or 4 of them because they're just going to be in these games where they're low
ugly.
Scoring, and it's just going to come down to like a play or two. So they're not going to. It's going to be very difficult for them to go like 6-1, which they'll probably need to do in order to get to the 1 seed. So yeah, I just don't think they have the consistent enough quarterback play.
Okay, Stuckey, have a good Thanksgiving. Keep the good times rolling, nailing these picks, and we will speak next week.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a safe holiday and enjoy the sweats all weekend. It's a beautiful time of the year, and we'll see you guys next weekend.
Thanks a lot, bro. See you, buddy.
Yeah, cheers.